Scroll with your finger.
Call the May 22nd, 18 meeting to order. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody please turn off their cell phone or put it on vibrate if you need it on. Roll call, Haley.
Nordum?
Here.
Gorley?
Here.
Gould? Hale?
Here.
Cornwell?
Here.
Duzick?
Here.
And Zibble Wolf. Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, we have some minutes from the meeting of February. We missed the workshop. We had a workshop in April, but we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't record it. But need someone to make a motion to approve the minutes for the February meeting.
I'd move to approve the minutes from the meeting February 27, 2018 as presented.
Second, anybody? I'll second it. I was here.
Okay.
Roll call, Haley.
Nordum?
Aye.
Gorley?
I have to abstain.
Okay. Gould? Hale?
Aye.
Cornwell?
Abstain.
Duzick?
Abstain.
Okay.
Any amendments from anybody? I think we're okay. Any conflicts for anybody seen on the agenda for tonight? Unfinished old business. That comes under you, Mr. Fair.
Actually, we'll go to the ceremonies first
Okay, let's do that.
and appointments. So would like to introduce one of our two new Park and Rec Commission members, Gina Duzek.
Thank you.
So she signed on with us, and she's been involved with the community volunteers, and I know she's gone through the River City Leadership Academy and a lot of things. So we picked up a good person for our board.
If she's been in the community volunteer, she knows how to work then.
Yes.
Yes, that is true.
And then as far as new staff, on the recreation side, we're going to have Tracy introduce some of our new staff. We are at full staff level for full-time, not seasonal, but for full-time.
You are now full staff.
For the first time in quite a while, so it's kind of nice.
Good.
It is nice. We're not quite at full staff because we have one person not coming on until June 4th. But we know who's going to be our full staff, and that's exciting. So I'm just going to introduce some of them you've seen before because it's a promotion, but I'm going to give you a little synopsis on them really quick, and I'll have them come up here. So maybe their backs aren't to you, but also people can see them on camera, so we'll do that. So the first one, I guess I'll bring you guys all up. So I'll bring up Rachel, and Sean, and Kendall, and Michaela, and then I'll tell you a little bit about each one of them. So, oh, he's lining you up. Line you up. All right, so Rachel Lane was a recreation coordinator, and now she's our recreation supervisor when Josh Oakes left. We sat down, Dave and I did, and we did a lot of discussions, and we interviewed her, and we knew she was the right candidate, but she even proved it more. But so, story on Rachel. She grew up in Boise, Idaho, until she came up here to attend the University of Idaho. She graduated in 2013 with a bachelor's in recreation. Then she went back home and worked at the Treasure Valley YMCA. Then in November 2014, we got her when she made the big move up to North Idaho to start her career as a recreation coordinator. And then, like I said, in 2018, she got promoted to recreation supervisor. So she's been working Parks and Rec department since about 2011 and has loved the experiences she's had working at all different levels and in capacities. Rachel's currently a member of our IRPA, which is Idaho Recreation and Parks Association, and a steering committee member for the Idaho Out of School Network. So we're super lucky to have her. We were glad when we first went to her about possibly moving up. She thought on it for a while and was ready to make that leap, and boy, are we lucky she made the leap. She is phenomenal. Then Sean, at the very end, is our candidate that will be on by June 4th, which we can't wait for. And I have a little backstory. Sean came through. He interviewed for a couple different positions, but we we're like, let's try. We thought he was better for something different, and he got that one. But to make myself feel old, I've known Sean since he was like 17 years old. So it was exciting to watch him work his way up. But Sean grew up in Post Falls. He graduated from Post Falls High School. He received his bachelor's from the University of Idaho. So I don't know about Dave and all his vandals, I was going to say. Sean currently lives in Coeur d'Alene, but over the years has been an active member of both Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene communities, organizing clubs, volunteering, and taking full advantage of the great community parks and events. Over the last 20 years, Sean's been involved with our Parks and Recreation in many different capacities. He worked a few summers with park maintenance and construction, officiated various sports, assisted with community events, has organized and coordinated and coached club programs that involve youth activities. Sean has been encouraged by the pride of our department that they have displayed in their jobs, programs in the city. He's excited to be a part of our team, and we're super excited to have him. So he will work under Rachel and do a lot of our youth athletic programs and various other things, but that'll be one of his big focuses. And then Kendall May, right next to Rachel. We just got her a few months ago, and we are lucky. We stole her from an organization my cousin works at, so I have that over him. He said he wasn't overexcited over. He said, you took our good one, but we love her, and we're excited she's here. Kendall is currently our newest member of our Parks and Recreation Department. She started in March of 2018. Kendall was born and raised in the Spokane Valley and went on to receive her bachelor's degree last spring for Recreation, Tourism, and Event Planning from Central Washington University in Ellensburg. She previously worked for the City of Spokane Valley Parks and Recreation Office doing a variety of different things. Her main task in our office is organizing our camp, office support, and lots of other support for a variety of programs. She will be off-site most of the summer at our summer day camp. They've been doing a lot of training and planning, and they're ready to go. I think you have 26 staff that you've trained between you and Rachel and Kit Kat. All right, Michaela right here in the center next to Sean. She's an exciting one to have because we have not had an intern program for a long time, and she came on as an intern with us right now. So Michaela was born and raised in Coeur d'Alene, is currently a junior at Gonzaga University. She's majoring in sports management with a minor in public relations. Michaela grew up playing fast pitch, softball, and t-ball to her senior year at Lake City High School and has been involved in many sports. She's currently a supervisor at Silverwood Theme Park, but is completing her internship here with our Parks and Rec this summer. So we have her just until June, but she's helping with a variety of different programs. We know her emphasis is at sports, but if she's thinking about going into city recreation, we're kind of letting her see a wide variety, and she's working in our office, she's working in Parks office, so this is some of our crew. This is the new additions to our crew. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We told them they're going to exit.
It's neat to have an intern program. The intern program, that's neat.
Good job.
Huh.
Ceremonies are done. Okay, let's see what we have here.
I guess-
Unfinished old, I think, Dave. Is that where we're at?
That's where we're at.
How about, let's see, the
Level of service,
standards. We went over that, what, 2 months ago?
we did. We've actually started, I think, probably in November was our first look at some of the minimum standards, finalized that in
We did some changes or
January.
upgrades.
And then February, we talked about some definitions and stuff, but I wanted to make sure you folks got the copy of what we had done. I did notice that the one sheet there, it said 1 of 17, it should say 1 of 18. We'll be sending you out a new one shortly that shows the changes after this summer of where our population growth is. So we're in a high growth mode in Post Falls. I know it's hard to believe. We've hit one of those booms again. And what it does in this method that we use is actually kind of interesting. I mean, it has a rollover effect. There's areas that we will be ahead of. There's areas we're going to be behind. You just don't add court for court, picnic table for picnic table. You know, it's like this, but we're trying to keep with that bar that's going up, going around it. So as I think said in my memo to you folks, we're getting ready to look at impact fees again and have that redone by a consultant. They're just going to be starting that in the next couple weeks. Talking to one of the consultants for it, and that process will take all year, but this is the kind of stuff that helps us along and makes it clear. You know, it's been working pretty good, so have those changes. The other one had to do with parkland definitions. We had made the decision that we needed a level 3, and still the best thing to come up with is conservation area. That's that unique bit of open space land, and it doesn't fit within our passive or category, which is for open space, for future parklands, for trails. It's just a different category. And we had talked about not having it calculate into the level of service for that per 1,000 population. For those at home, we base it on 6 acres of active level 1 parkland per 1,000 population and 10 acres of open space, passive 2. As we've added what we're calling the Post Falls Community Forest with the joint project between the wastewater department land application site, there will be some recreational use. The first basis will be that land application, and we've got to work through that. But we'll be taking off some of our land that's always been calculated in that level 2. So for now, we'll keep it at not counting the level of service, but I'm going to ask you folks to think about this, and when we go into our workshop next month, I think I would like to take that level 3, the conservation area. It does have an impact on us and how we service, but do it on, let's say, a 25%, so a 0.25 calculation. I've been playing with some of the numbers, and that seems to make it work with where we're taking away, because we'll take away the Camulin Park trails and the Crutch property. So those have been that level 2.
You're going to put those in 3.
Those will go into 3 with the community forest. You got to look at it as a whole, but there will be public access. And where it really came evident was when we looked at the agency performance report with the park matrix that the NRPA did for us. And part of that, kind of skews it on this type of report, but it also made me really look at what does it do to that level of service, especially when we're growing so fast. That's the critical part. Is we've been, as a city and as a department, very fortunate that the methodology that we chose to keep that, I guess, the Post Falls residents whole, that I don't want to change it too much that suddenly we're out of sync. So instead of saying it has no impact or no part of that calculation, I think it does have a small one. It's not full. We don't have total use of those sites. They are set aside. First and foremost, it will be an area where we do the land application. From there, we'll build over it. So it has a percentage, and of course, our rock climbing areas are in part of that, and future mountain biking, there'll be hiking trails. So I think it has a percentage, just not a full percentage.
The Quinlan Trail's how long, roughly?
Brian, how many miles of hiking trails do we have now?
Approximately.
We're getting close to 15, 20 miles of natural surface trails.
Very good.
Yeah.
That answered my question. Thank you.
We can add that number back to you, though.
Yeah. And if you don't walk perfectly straight, it'll increase on the number.
There we go.
So, but I'd like you to just think about that idea, the concept of giving it a partial credit into our calculations. And we'll discuss it more at the workshop. But for me, I've kind of worked it over, and it seems to make sense, but I want more minds to look at it. Okay?
Good, thank you. Dog park looks like it's next. Are you going to touch on the one down by Yolks?
Yeah. A little bit of a glare there, but I just wanted to give you an update.
There it is.
Yeah. We've been working with that. We got the initial okay by the Yolks management that they like this design. We'd worked with Vertus to design it. The city had gone to the Idaho Transportation Department. They said, yes, they would enter into a lease on the property, but we had to have access from the Yolks parking lot. We could not go off of Celtice. They're really trying to limit those. So it did finally go back to the owner of the property. He thought about it for quite a while, talked to the people with the Yolks, looked at it more, and he decided that he did not want to give us an easement off of his property to do it. So at this point, this option is not going to happen. Not going to give up on it completely. We do know that this intersection here for the on-ramp onto I-90, it's on the transportation plan for ITD. They'll be looking at some of that adjustment in there, so there's going to be a reconfiguration. There will be some sidewalks ultimately coming down in here. You've got down in here is apartment complex on the Idaho Veneer property. We just have to think it out a little bit further and work on it. But in the meantime, we are looking for a new property. We don't want to just check off a box as much as people want to see a dog park. We need about 3 acres of land so that we have the parking. We have enough space that we can close areas off. We can separate it. We can reduce some of the use in the wear patterns. Don't really want to put it buried into a neighborhood because you get a conflict with noise. You have other things like that. So where this was just a great location, very visible into a commercial setting, there's going to be the multifamily housing across the street. There was a lot of things that played into it. But I just wanted to keep you appraised. And maybe somebody out there listening right now knows of a piece of property that would be available and reasonable in that like I said, we need 3 acres to make something like this work. You don't want to make it too small and then you're just creating a conflict. So this didn't work out. We thought we had a good shot. Maybe someday it'll come around and we'll be able to make it work, but for now we have to move on to looking for other sites. Okay.
How receptive was ITD on that?
They said if we could get that access onto the parking lot, that they would be good with it. So.
Good. Surprises me. Moving on, I'll get my calendar here back in order. I messed it up. Citizen issues. Do we have any citizens that have a comment or an issue tonight? Nope. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Under new business, I see we have the park in the Meadows, the great pickleball issue.
Yeah. Just wanted to keep you guys appraised. As you know, last year we had a lot of contact with the pickleball community. It is a growing sport, and they wanted to see us, I guess, restripe our tennis courts for joint usage. It's our policy not to create the conflicts. If we'd had an excess number of tennis courts, then we could see converting, but as you guys well know, we don't. We've been very frugal in what we've added and stuff, but we did look at some of the alternatives. Staff came up with the idea that we could go to Beck Park, take the basketball court, convert it over to 3 pickleball courts, and then take the pickleball court at the Meadows and convert it to a small basketball court. We started that process. The pickleball courts are in at Beck Park, and it made sense because we had the parking. To add more courts at the Meadows We just didn't have as big a parking lot, so you don't want to create that conflict. This year, as we were getting ready to switch over the Meadows pickleball court to basketball court, it became a little controversial. Had probably 8 to 10 residents contact us wanting us not to make that change. They didn't want to see the pickleball court go away. Right now, we are with the construction of the 3 courts in Tullamore, we are right out at our minimum standard. We're good on that, just like we are with the tennis. Because of all the projects that we're doing and the work, and some of them are running behind, we do not at this time have the staff manpower to put in the basketball standards. So we have ordered the new posts for the pickleball court. We will, for part of this summer, have it up as pickleball. The intention is we still need to put in a basketball court. That was a promise we made, because we also heard, not just from the pickleball players, but the basketball players, about losing their court. And we need to meet that standard too.
I
Yes, sir.
played a lot of tennis at one time, and you and I have discussed this. I try to respond or give my input on what I pick up in the public, not from my own desires, but, you know, I would hope that we don't pickleball paint every tennis court, you know, so that
No.
the lines bother me. I mean, maybe I'm getting old and not subject to change as much, but, yeah.
As you're aware, when this came up and we heard, you know, the talk that, you know, the tennis courts aren't being used as pickleball predominantly, we did do counts for 3 months, and it was 8-to-1 on usage, tennis over pickleball. Now probably we're going to be at 4-to-1 now. I mean, there is a growing sense in that. Don't deny that, but we have to service all the needs. One of the suggestions that did come out in one of my meetings with one of the gentlemen that was with the Homeowners Association was asking about the sand volleyball court, that it's not used. And from our observations, sand volleyball has diminished in its usage. So right now we are trying to find monies to pave the sand volleyball court over to a basketball court, and that would meet both those needs. But, you know, that's $35,000 to $40,000 to do that. So we are in the process of trying to locate monies. But we're working on it.
Dave, on the current
sir.
level of service, the basketball, is that updated as of now with the current situation?
That probably is not, but we are adding two at Crown. So we will be fine with the population, as long as we put one back in
Back there?
the Meadows
Okay.
or back.
How many pickleball do we have? Dave?
1, 2, 3. Well, we have 5 pickleball courts, 6 if you put back the Meadows one, and we have 3 under construction with the Tullamore project.
9.
So that'll put us at 9.
Very vocal group.
They're passionate.
Passionate's a good word. Thank you.
But because, you know, every action has a cause and effect, and I just wanted you guys to be aware of it. We've heard a lot about, you know, the courts and the levels. We've heard about the dandelions. There's a lot of things we continue to hear about, and we try to balance it out. You know, we're just, everything we do, we have to balance it with our budget, and we can't do everything.
The needs and desires. I get a lot of input in the public from basketball players, but you don't get a lot of organized comment.
No,
There's a good demand for it.
yeah. Your pickleball community is very organized. We saw a while there when the BMX became popular, they were organized, and that's really what you see is when the groups become organized, they push a little bit more in.
You- Let's see, 2018 NRPA Agency Performance Review. How did we do?
So I don't know how much Brian wants to do, but we'll tag team. I'll let him go, and then I'll correct him, and then I'll go, and he'll correct me.
You get to listen to Brian.
Hopefully, you guys did have a chance to review some of this.
Yes.
It's really good numbers, and while Brian gets set up, that report that you see there, NRPA does it for all. It's the way they say thank you to all of us who put the data into the system. We can also run special reports where we can look at just Idaho or number size, and Brian's probably going to talk about that, so I won't take his thunder anymore. But it's that many pages of just data that Brian was responsible for putting in. It's a lot of work. You got to make sure you're consistent in what you put it in and how you put it in. We spent a lot of time talking back and forth on interpretation of some of their stuff, and they continue to refine it, but it's really good data to have for us. So I'm going to let Brian talk a little bit about it.
You know, I think the other thing with this is identifying a few of these items that we should be tracking and measuring ourselves against. And, you know, there's a few of them that stand out that are nice and simple to work off of. The revenue to operating expenditures, you know, that's a really clear number that we can judge ourselves against other populations or similar population demographics. And as we break down into our region and that as well. So, and that's one that Tracy and her team does a great job as we look at like the revenue compared to our operating. We outperform both our similar population demographic densities, population density demographic that they highlight in here, as well as.
My sheets.
Why don't we use your sheets, because mine have scribbles on them.
Okay. So you can choose
So,
which.
As we look, I'll highlight that revenue per capita, this one here. You can see revenue per capita, our agency, we're performing $23.39 per person as compared to similar population density at 20. So that's revenue as a percent of operating expenditures, once again outperforming by over 2%. And then on the parks side of things, operating expenditures per acre of parkland, and this is once again we are including that increase for the forest properties, but so you have to somewhat take that into consideration that we're having to bring up that level of maintenance to catch up with the new level of service that we're providing. So our agency, we're at a little over $18,000 per acre of parkland as compared to $27.67. When you look at not just the parkland, but also the other areas that we maintain, the business centers, city hall PD, right-of-ways, city focal point entrances, and that sort of thing, the numbers get even more askew as it compares to the other agencies. So operating expenditures per acres of parks and non-park sites, our agency is at 2840. And the population density, similar, is at 5,500. So when you start to take those business centers, the higher use, higher trafficked, more maintenance intensive locations, you start to get an increase of maintenance cost per 1,000 square feet or per acre of area. So our performance level there is excellent.
Well, Brian's looking at that. One thing I wanted to point out is we are dealing with statistics.
Right.
So on the sheet that I had open there, you can look at it, and we're looking good in some categories, and we look bad in other categories. Same numbers. Because we have added that forest land, the Post Falls Community Forest land into it because we're trying to follow NRPA's definition. So it does have an impact on us. The city owns it. It is open to the public on a limited basis. So those are things that we're trying to be consistent when we, so it's apples to apples on this. But suddenly we're looking at 25 acres of parkland per 1,000 population. So when you look at it on that, that kind of pushes it off a little bit. It makes it's skewed. So you do have to be aware of that. There are reasons why certain things look that way. For some of this, we do not have a community center. Some of them have community centers. So when you get to facilities, we look really bad. Just the nature of our system. So
There's that number that Dave was just mentioning. 25 versus 11.8 is a similar population demographic. Our goal is 16, the 10 acres of undeveloped parkland, and then 6 acres of developed parkland. Right now, our developed parkland, we're at just over 159 acres of developed parkland, and that ends up being, we're close to 5.3 acres per 1,000 at the moment. So we're below our levels of service, and then seeing our growth trend that we have right now, even with the parks that we have developed online, Crown Point and Tullamore that are underway, we'll see that number dip below 5 before we start to catch back up as we start to see the sports field complex come online.
yeah,
It has to be extremely difficult to compare to other municipalities. I mean, for our outlying side areas, and I mean, we're not downtown Parkland.
no, but you do two things. You compare yourself to yourself, and you look at it from a year-by-year basis. But it's also good to see what a large average is like. So it's not. I'll go back to years ago when we took the snapshot of where we wanted to be. When I first came here, we were at 30 acres of parkland per 1,000. By the time impact fees became legal in the state of Idaho, we were down to 18 acres per 1,000. Wow. As we were going through all that, we came up with the negotiated issue, or I shouldn't say issue, but the level of 16 acres. It was something we could justify. We looked at what we were doing, and we've been close. Probably if we take out the community forest land, we're going to be at about 15 and a quarter acres per 1,000. The one thing, Brian's right, we are down a little bit, but we do have other lands that are coming up. We have stuff with Montrose that is due to us. We have Foxtail. We have some others. So, like I said, we go like this. As
A
long as
couple of
we're
years
close.
ago, I would guess we would be under 20 or low 20s. We picked up the
Yeah.
acquisitions we recently picked.
In the last 4 years, we've hovered right around 5.5 per 1,000.
Which is a third of our goal,
We're
not roughly.
right.
Thank you.
Some of the other total park acreage right now, we're at 882 park acreage when we add the forest properties in. Parks and non-park sites were 902 acres of total ground to cover. Total number of trail miles managed by the agency, 36.2, and that's before we add the areas out in the community forest. So we're probably pushing 50 acres, or 50 miles of trails at the moment. And once again, hard to compare to as a whole, but it shows the upper quartile for similar population demographic is at 30 miles of trails. So we're already, before we even add what we have back there, we're already providing a great level of service to our community, really preparing for the growth curve that we have in place at the moment. Building square footage, Dave pointed that out. We're at just over 20,000 square feet, 20,800, and similar population density would have 67,500. So underperforming in that category. We have the 5,800 square feet building square foot building that's going to be coming on for the 2020 year, report year. It won't be online for this current year. Some of the numbers that get a little bit squirrely, I guess I'd call it, that it's kind of one of those items that when you look at the definition that the NRPA provides, our total facility contacts, total program contacts, we work off of the definition they provide for us, but I don't know that a lot of people report that way. So those are numbers that you kind of have to take into consideration, but we can definitely look at the last 3 years of trend line and see where we're at as compared to where we were the last couple, 3, 4 years. And total program contacts, total facility contacts, we're seeing all of those trending up. We had a little dip 2 years ago on the program contacts, but that's bounced right back up, and we're growing as compared to where we were the 2 years before. Outdoor tennis courts, just to kind of highlight that. We have our levels of service, but our agency right now, we're providing 1 court per 7,043 people. Population density average would be 1 court for every 4,250. So we don't have a surplus of tennis courts, and our levels of service also shows that. So we're showing that we're mirroring those levels of service as it relates to the national average and what our community is demanding. So that facilities page on the end really does relate to the whole levels of service conversation really, really closely.
Okay. Here's one thing I'd like to add. You know, it's a chicken, egg, horse, cart, whatever you want to go with, whatever your favorite thing is there on how we do this. Our staff works hard. They're on the recreation side, on the park side, cemetery side, urban forestry. We run very lean, and the demands are high there, but on the park side, they're really feeling the crunch in that sense. But if we don't obtain land, we'll get behind the curve and we will not catch up. It has a long-term impact. In the park and recreation planning, we're looking 20, 30, 50 years out, and that's what we have to do. We're looking at build out. And so we feel pretty comfortable. At some point, we will see our level of service have to drop down. There's a certain point where we just can't afford anymore. There's more, the land isn't available, the cost of land becomes too great. We're not, you know, we have to make those adjustments. So we recognize that, and this, as we approach it, is for that. But, you know, for recreation programs, last year, 192 different programs. Of those, 182 were fee-based programs. Program contacts, I would say that's the attendance would be 325,807. Volunteer hours last year, 56,362. We've always run a lot of volunteers for a lot of programs. That takes a lot of staff time too that people don't see, whether it's getting them set up for special projects or working with the coaches. They are employees.
Yes.
They're not paid employees, but just like all employees, you have personnel issues that staff have to deal with. So all those things have impacts. You know, that's just how it is. But I think a lot of the information that goes out there is good. We can actually dial down on some of this stuff and look for specifics if we want to look at just cities under that. I'm very proud of what my staff does, how we service the community, what we're doing for the community. And 95% of the people that we have contact with are very happy with that. So we're striving to try and make the last 5% happy too, but sometimes we do have to say no. We can't do everything, but I think we have a good sound reasoning behind it. And if there are questions on that report, we're open to anything. Try to explain some of it. If not, we'll go find out what it is.
Actually, think about, like, if we grow 1,000 people, then we gotta add 16 acres.
Correct.
I mean, like, that could be every year.
It will be more than that every year
Yeah.
very soon.
I think that's a big number.
We got over,
It is.
what was the building report this morning? It was we're nearing 500 new residential building starts for the year. So,
And then you have some multifamily coming in, and you have a lot of things. Luckily, it doesn't just keep going like that. You know, you get that plateau in minutes. So we work through it. We know that at a certain point, you know, that maybe at 60,000, maybe at 70,000 rating, there's a certain point there where we do have to adjust. We're going to see our level 2 go down. We're going to say instead of the 10 acres, we'll be down to 8, and we'll be pushing some of that into the level 1, and it may drop down to 5 acres. You just don't want to do that too soon, because think of this. If we were today to get rid of 75% of our parks and push all our people into that, that's exactly where we would be today if we hadn't been doing this. If we hadn't been keeping that level of the 16 acres, it's equal to a 75% cut in our parkland. You wouldn't have the stuff at Camelin Park. Black Bay would be totally overrun. Kiwanis wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have the ball fields. So for me, that's a really good way to look at it.
those are the things that drive operating expenditures per acre up, because you put more people in the same space and things wear out. And we have to increase maintenance frequencies or types of maintenance activities to be able to sustain that increased use. A soccer field can only handle so many hours. A natural surface grass soccer field can only handle so many hours before it wears out. And then we have to start shifting things sideways, forward and back, or rotating 90 degrees to try to make those things happen so that we can continue to use that same pitch. And at some point, it's going to require a renovation and a rebuild or taking it out of service. So those are the reasons that you see other similar agencies that are offering 10 acres of parkland per 1,000. You're seeing their maintenance costs to nearly $3,000 per acre, where we're somewhere in that 12 to 15. So it's a shift of, do we want to provide a little bit more now so we can handle the growth, and eventually our maintenance costs will probably have to catch up as we no longer can provide that same level of service, or expanse of land, but still have to deliver the facility for the people that are wanting to use it.
Is the,
They want.
Right.
I should know this, but does the high school has tennis courts? Are those counted in our calculation?
Yes,
Okay.
for this level, minimum standard, because we went in and jointly built them. So they are open to the public when it's not school hours. So there's 4 courts out there. The school district maintains them.
That's a good number, 4, because you can have tournaments and back to your old days, playing in the tournaments and stuff. You really need that many.
Yeah. And when they put them in, they had an issue with some of the posts kind of moving in. They did catch us when we were putting in the ones at White Pine and let us know what happened with the other ones, so we were able to make those corrections. So we worked together very well with that. It's not just on the park side. You look at the recreation programs, it's the same issues go with that. We can only go to a certain size, and then you have to have another facility. If we'll pick on soccer right now. If you have like 5 different fields, that means 5 different supervisors have to be there. If you have the fields together, and maybe it's, you still have 5 fields in 3 parks, we only need 3 supervisors to run it, plus your officials. Right. So those have costs in it. With the addition of the senior center thrift store that we purchased, we'll be able to move our dance class and gymnastics classes over there. They actually will now be able to handle a little bit higher amount, may go from 12 to 15. It doesn't seem like much, But as you expand it, that's a big issue, and it makes us more cost-effective. Things that you run, wear and tear, everything. So it's across the board. And I could do the same thing with the cemetery, look at,
The overall
unfortunately, I
impact.
can tell you I think we said, probably if I look at the statistics, we'll have had a record number of burials and services this last year. Not necessarily sales, because people pre-buy but I can tell you that they were going pretty solid this winter. So it's a sign the city's growing.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. And Dave, I see nothing under administrative or staff reports, commission
Actually,
comments.
just
Anybody have?
Rick, just one thing under
I'm sorry.
staff report. I just wanted to let you know that the cemetery fountain is up and running, so.
It is. We toured that, last year, was it? Yeah.
So it's gorgeous, it survived the winter, it's going, the lights go off at midnight, so if you drive by, it's beautiful.
I'm laying a wreath on the 27th, I think. I'll have to look, see, when is that?
Next Monday
Yeah.
for Memorial Day, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so
next
let's
Monday.
see. I'm sorry, is that it?
yes.
Nothing under administration. Commission comments, any commission comments? I have one. Our next workshop's in June. And since that'll be after the first day of summer, I'll bring my scissors for any ties that's worn after June 21.
Good
We'll
idea.
rectify the
That's
tie
a good
situation in June. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't see you there.
If I wear my clan tie, that could be dangerous.
Actually, wear a tie, we'll get you. Anyone else? You didn't wear yours tonight. Well, I think that's it. Any other comments from anyone? If not, we'll adjourn. We are adjourned.